Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to FY21 full year's earnings call of Star Housing Finance Limited, formerly known as Acme Star Housing Finance Limited. Today on the call, we have Mr. Kalpesh Dave, who heads the company corporate planning and strategy at the company. We have Mr. Natesh Narayanan, who is the CFO of the company, and Mr. Ashish Jain, Managing Director of Star HFL. We also have Mr. Rajesh Agrawal from Cleon IR. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Rajesh Agrawal from Cleon IR. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Faizan. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the FY21 earnings call of Star Housing Finance Limited, formerly Acme Star Housing Finance Limited. As you know, on the call today, we have Mr. Ashish Jain, Managing Director, Mr. Natesh Narayanan, CFO, and Mr. Kalpesh Dave, Head Corporate Planning and Strategy. Today's discussion may include predictions, estimates, or other information that might be considered forward-looking. While these forward-looking statements represent company's current judgment on what the future holds, they are subject to risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially. We are cautioned not to place undue reliance on these forward-looking statements, which reflect company's opinion only as of the date of this presentation. Please keep in mind that the company is not obligating themselves to revise or publicly release the results of any revision to these forward-looking statements in light of new information or future events. I would also like to emphasize that while this call is open to all invitees, it may not be broadcasted or reproduced in any form or manner. I would now like to invite the management to share some perspective with you with regard to the company's operations and results for the year under review. And after that, we'll open the call to questions from analysts. Over to you, Mr. Kalpesh.
Thank you, Rajesh. Am I audible, operator?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah, thank you so much. So good evening and greetings. On behalf of Star Housing Finance Limited, erstwhile known as Acme Star Housing Finance Limited, I, Kalpesh Dave, warmly welcomes all of you for FY 2021 earnings call. We also have Mr. Natesh Narayanan, our CFO, and our Managing Director, Mr. Ashish Jain. I hope and pray that all are safe in this second wave of COVID-19 pandemic. Please take care and stay protected. So before getting into the details, I am setting the flow of the proceedings. I will give an overview of FY 2021 covering business performance. Mr. Natesh Narayanan will be sharing the financial highlights of the year gone by, and our MD will be addressing the key achievements and the path that lies ahead in this journey. So in the last call, I had shared the company's transformation from version 1.0 to version 2.0. Carrying forward this actionable, we are happy to share that in the last EOGM dated April 30th, 2021, we have received shareholders' approval for the change of company name from Acme Star Housing Finance Limited to Star Housing Finance Limited. Post this, we have received approval from the ROC and the regulator for the change of the name of the company. We now await for the fresh certificate from the RBI with this new name. Secondly, we have received shareholders' approval for changing the registered office from Udaipur to Mumbai. This would help us to have a better network with our lenders, rating agencies, media partners, business associates, and also to find the right talent to scale going ahead, given our central office would be from Mumbai. We have received shareholders' approval for rolling out of the Employee Stock Option Scheme 2021. And this would enable us to create a sense of ownership, accountability, and long-term value creation for our employees. Finally, we have received shareholders' approval for increase in authorized capital from rupees 17 crores to rupees 30 crores. Now, this is in line with growth capital raise plans, subject to compliance and all necessary approvals. The above resolution/approval would enable us to achieve the objectives that we have set out in this journey, which is becoming an institution of repute in Indian affordable housing finance space. For the year gone by, we have achieved the following. Disbursement of rupees 31.25 crores through 7 branches, 15 digital POPs across the states of Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Tamil Nadu. This is year-on-year increase of 11% and increase of 17% considering the active business. This has been achieved with 8 months of business activity, as April to July was impacted by the nationwide lockdown induced due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Gross loan book now stands at rupees 94.54 crores as of March 31st, 2021, with 1107 live accounts, which is year-on-year increase of 22.6% amount-wise. Individual loans now comprise of 84% of the total book. Incremental disbursements throughout the year has been exclusively retail with an average loan size of 11 to 12 lakhs. The company has appointed Mr. A.P. Saxena as non-executive independent director to the board. He comes with 3 decades of experience, having served at the NHB through his career and retired as the general manager. He has strong knowledge domain in the areas of risk management, policy formulation, statutory, regulatory compliance, and corporate governance, and he guides the operating team in these areas. The company has deployed the core elements called Jaguar and digital mobility application for credit appraisal. Incremental loans are now processed through Jaguar and Mobility. The digital collection application for receivable management through the loan life cycle of the borrower has been deployed and shall go live soon. The company has a staff strength of 74 employees as of March 31st, 2021, which is an increase from 12 employees that we had as of October 2019, which was the beginning of version 2.0, which is a transformation story that we are currently going through. The platform set in version 2.0 has enabled the company to scale up with 20 crores of monthly run rate of disbursement through the existing network that we have set up. Now, this will be utilized to achieve the business objectives in the current financial year. FY 2021 has been overall a challenging year where we were tested at all levels. Star HFL team together has weathered and continues to address to the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Collective experience and domain expertise of housing finance professionals has enabled us to scale up in these times, and we are passionate to continue the growth story. Now I request our CFO, Mr. Natesh Narayanan, to speak on the highlights of our financial performance. Thank you, and over to you, Natesh.
Thank you, Kalpesh. Good evening, everybody. For the 12-month period ended 31st March, following are the highlights. The gross loan book of the company grew from 77.1 crores in March 2020 to 94.54 as of March 2021. Repayment for this 12-month period, including prepayments, were at 13.8 crores. The company has lending relationships from the following: State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, AE Small Finance Bank, Mars Financial Services, Avans, and Hinduja Housing. During the period, the company has added 2 new lenders. We've availed refinance from NHB to the extent of 24.6 crores at below 7%. In FY 2021, as I said earlier, Union Bank has been added as a new lender who has extended a term loan facility of 12 crores. The company also received a 7 crore term loan from State Bank of India under TLTRO. Interest income on the financial assets is at 15.53 crores. Interest expense stands at 4.99 crores. The annual yields on loans and advances is 18.2, while the cost is at 9.8. Excluding the credit lines from NHB, the finance cost is at 11%. Incremental loans are disbursed at a weighted average yield of 16.5%. The expansion of the company to new geographies, set of infrastructure, and onboarding of quality manpower resulted in an operating expense of 6.33 crores, of which the employee expenses stand at 3.97 crores and other operating expenses stand at 2.36 crores. The impairment loss allowance is at 1.95 crores this year. GNPA is at 3.07% and the net non-performing asset is at 2.62. As required under the Ind AS guidelines, we have done a loan account-wise assessment to arrive at the estimated credit loss, which is at 69.5 lakhs for the year. And conservatively, we have also written off to 1.26 crores of loans as the overall book gets seasoned. In view of the COVID pandemic, we have provided an additional 52.6 lakhs to the COVID impairment reserve. The total expenses for the period are at 13.42 crores, resulting in a profit before tax at 2.18 crores. The profit after tax for the period stands at 1.56 crores. The earnings per share is at 0.99 rupees. Net worth as of 31st March 2021 is at 53.6 crores and the leverage is at 1.2 times. We have entered into a new financial year and at the same time are facing the second wave of COVID pandemic. With this backdrop, I have the following points to submit. The company remains well capitalized with a net worth of 53.6 crores and a leverage of 1.2 times. We look forward to increase the ambit of our liability management program from here on. We have received shareholder approvals to increase the authorized share capital, and the board too has given an enabling resolution to raise capital. Subject to necessary approvals, we look forward to strengthening our capital and complement liability to enhance leverage. We have a conservative provisioning policy by virtue of which we have created a COVID impairment reserve and have also written off loans as the book gets seasoned. The endeavor here is to have a scale up backed by quality and risk being managed through adequate provisioning. Our investment in manpower and technology make us strong to scale up the balance sheet going forward. I hand over this call to Ashish Jain, our MD. Thank you. And over to you, Ashish.
Thank you, Natesh and Kalpesh. I'm audible? Good?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Kalpesh and Natesh, once again. Greetings to all. I welcome you all to the earnings call for FY 2021. Star Housing Finance Limited, the new name of the company, reflects not only the standalone identity, but our collective aspiration to be a meaningful player in Indian housing finance space. Post all compliances, we shall commence our outreach program with all stakeholders under this new name. We have registered growth during one of the toughest times, and the entire team is to be credited for this achievement. We registered record disbursement in the last year in the company's history. We maintained our exclusive focus on retail loans during the year. On the collection front, we have walked the talk with our customer, which resulted in the collection efficiency for the month increased from around 35% in April 2020 to more than 95% in March 2021. Our physical branches and on-field staff and reliance on in-house sourcing has helped us to stay in touch with the customer during this period and enable walk the talk, which resulted in becoming regular pretty quickly. Our liability franchise had highest ever raised till date in a financial year. We added the NHB and the UBI during the year to our list of financial institutions in the debt profile. We have invested in manpower and in technology during the year and look forward to continue as we scale up and expand in new geographies. We have adopted a conservative provisioning approach and shall continue to do the same factoring in the rich information that we have gathered from these 1100 plus accounts and the way they have behaved during the loan life cycle and especially during the current pandemic. We look forward to strengthen overall corporate governance framework by inviting reputed professionals from financial services and allied domains to join the board of the company. Subject to necessary approvals, we also look forward to chase the growth capital, complement with liability, and scale up the balance sheet. I sincerely thank all our stakeholders, including employees, business partners, vendors, bankers, auditors, and last but not the least, our regulator, RBI, as well as the NHB, who has supported the company in version 2.0 of its transformation story. Finally, on behalf of everyone at Star HFL, I pray for fast recovery of all of us who have suffered in one way or the other due to this current pandemic. Please stay safe and protected. Thank you so much.
So should we start the floor for Q&A?
Yeah, we should do that.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one at this time. The first question is from the line of Venkatesh from Aham House. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Very good afternoon. Hi, Venkatesh.
First of all, my finest compliments to the management and to the people behind this company to produce such a wonderful result. I was in fact very inquisitive to understand the number of customers who had opted for moratorium and provisions that was being created to the levels of moratorium customers for the period April, September.
Yeah. So I will take that particular thing up, Kalpesh here. So Venkatesh, when RBI had come up with their guidelines on the moratorium in the first COVID wave, at that point of time, we had communicated this particular thing to our entire borrowers. And based on the responses that we sought from them, total of around 320 borrowers had opted for moratorium during that particular period, which then comprises of around 28 to 29% of our loan book at that point of time. And accordingly, based on the requirements, the moratorium was being given to the required customers after studying their individual specific requirements. However, one thing that I wanted to tell you is that in the version 2.0 of the transformation that we have begun since October 2019, if you talk about the loans that we had disbursed post October 2019, obviously the book gets seasoned and so on and so forth, and thing happens. But the way we have diversified into the new geographies with the new centers, onboarding new customers from these particular geographies, total of incremental of around 470 odd accounts are now through these incremental geographies. And for those incremental loan accounts, around 29 accounts had opted for the moratorium. To speak of the first moratorium that was announced by RBI. And all of these accounts have been now regularized, and in terms of the repayment behavior, they are now are online in terms of regular repayment. Obviously, the provisions that go into the effect we have already provided for in the current financial year. Not only that, as Natesh has already mentioned, we have also considered the seasoning of the overall book going ahead, and factoring in the disruption that has caused by the pandemic, and considering the profile of the customers who have reacted to it. We have also been conservative in providing additional amount to the overall provisions that we have made, and have written off to the extent of around 1.26 crores during the last financial year. Just to answer to your question.
Excellent, boss. Very good.
Thank you, Venkatesh.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Govind Sandhu from Estrogen Alpha. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead
Hello.
with the question.
Yeah, am I audible? Yeah, I have quite a few questions because I think this is the first call which you are hosting. So
this is the second call that we are hosting. So obviously the first call for the full financial year. That's what we are doing.
Right. So maybe this is the first call I am attending. So there will be some basic questions also.
Sure.
So we have a loan book of around 95 crores. And do we have any wholesale component in it?
So the wholesale component of this loan book stands at 16%, as I said previously. 16.
Okay.
84% of the book is now totally retail.
Okay. So going forward, what is our focus area? This ratio will continue, or our wholesale book will run down and it will be a complete retail book, or what is the strategy going forward?
Yeah, excellent question. In fact, the strategy to go ahead in terms of our operation is to have an exclusive focus on the retail loan. So you see our average ticket size is 11 to 12 lakhs, and maximum loan that we disburse is with a ticket size of 25 lakhs. So going forward also, this would be the exclusive focus on the retail side of it, primarily catering to the first home buyers in EWS/LIG segment, those who are present in tier 2, tier 3 and the semi-urban locations. So this would be our focus. Obviously, going ahead, this book that comprises that of which 16% comprises the project loan that is going to get run down, and maybe when we talk next year, this should be in a lower single digit going ahead. I'm not giving the guidance, but this book will continue to run down from the wholesale part of it, and our exclusive focus will be on retail. Incremental disbursement, all that we have done in the last financial year has been exclusively retail with the same characteristics.
Got it. Thank you, sir. What has been the disbursement number, sir? I must have missed it. I was a couple of minutes late on the call, so if you can share.
So the disbursements that we did in the last financial year was 31.25 crores during the year.
1.25. Got it. Okay. And what was the moratorium interest which got capitalized? Or this includes that also?
Yeah. Natesh, you want to answer on the interest capitalized in the moratorium part of it? Natesh?
Mr. Natesh, please unmute your line from your side if muted.
Yeah. Am I clear now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as disbursement is concerned, it's pure disbursement. There is no capitalization of the accounts in terms of moratorium. So the way it is that we have roughly about total restructured account is to the extent of 8 crores, and the FITL was given to about 132 accounts. That has nothing to do with the disbursement per se.
So what was the amount? 8 crores was the interest capital, moratorium interest capitalization?
Restructured loan. So they have been given a 2-year in the 1 to 2 year extension depending on each case.
Got it.
That is the principal outstanding of the cases that have been given extension as per RBI COVID package guidelines.
This is the principal amount, but
Yes.
I think I didn't get my answer. That's okay, no problem.
We are not asking any. He's asking Natesh whether any interest has been capitalized for these accounts.
No.
I was asking for the FITL amount, which is actually the number which I was asking for.
FITL amount.
Total, as I said to you, is 320 accounts have been granted moratorium under this particular route, which would basically be comprising of amount of around 17 to 18 crores of the total portfolio.
Right. So out of that 320 on these 320 accounts, there would be some interest component which would have been converted into their loan during the moratorium period.
So you basically want to understand what is the FITL amount. Have I understood you correctly?
Yes.
1 second.
The FITL amount is 4 crores 75 lakhs.
Yeah, that should be the right number. Got it. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Couple of more questions if I can ask.
Yeah, please.
Sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So that's okay. So the third, thank you so much. The third question is that we have how many branches are we operating? Because at the start of the year we were having operating from around 6 branches, if I am correct.
So in the current year, we have continued with the existing infrastructure, and we have added 1 more branch and 3 more digital POPs through addition of manpower at several of the locations. So right now, as we speak, our total infrastructure is 7 branches, 7 physical offices with 15 digital POPs, which is manned by the on-ground staff of sourcers and processors. And these are spread across the states of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Tamil Nadu.
Got it. Thank you. So just a simple question on the distribution strategy. So Generally, sir, in the affordable housing space, the distribution is more towards a closely knit branch and spoke kind of model or physical presence model, whereby there is a geographical concentration, and from that geographical nucleus, companies generally spread in all the 3-4 directions, whatever it is, wherever they are, in a carpet style approach. Whereas we have actually chosen a different, completely different approach. So can you just elaborate a little more on the distribution strategy of the company going forward?
Certainly, certainly. So right now, as anyone would see it, right now it would look as if, it has been opened up in a discrete manner. However, we just wanted to bring to your attention is that wherever we have opened up, see, we had to open up in the state of Maharashtra because Maharashtra comes number one in terms of, demand for affordable housing units on the retail side of it. So that was obviously, we had to come to the state of Maharashtra and more of so, operate from Mumbai, which is a financial hub. That's where we'll find the talent for scaling up. So obviously it was a no-brainer that, we had to come down into Maharashtra and specifically operate from centers like Mumbai, Pune, and if you go into the Vidarbha, it would be either Akola or Nagpur. We settled in for Akola. So that was one particular thing that we did. However, if you talk about Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, these are contiguous geographies of Rajasthan. Okay, and this company has been operational in the southern portion of Udaipur and southern portion of Rajasthan, which are kind of border areas of Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. So I do not see that kind of expansion in real sense. Only expansion that we did is that we ensured that we have a physical premises at the location. So that is what how we expanded over there. Coming down to Tamil Nadu, obviously, that question is pertinent. But Tamil Nadu, by virtue of it being the second largest market in terms of, demand for housing units, we thought that we should have that particular, state also being picked in our overall scheme of things. Now, what happened is that, obviously the expansion that we go ahead, the states that are coming in between like Karnataka, Andhra, Telangana, Chhattisgarh for that matter, these obviously were planned in the manner that, it would basically ensure that the overall, it looks like a contiguous thing from Rajasthan down to Tamil Nadu. So when you probably, maybe look 12 or 18 months down the line when we may, think of opening up centers at these locations and manning these locations, then the overall scheme of things will, will become clearer to you. However, this has been a, particular strategy to ensure that, first of all, we choose the region which has the maximum potential in terms of, scaling up. And within that particular location, we choose a city center. For example, if I'm in Pune, then I'm ensuring that I have a physical branch or a main office at Pune, which will ensure that it is easily accessible for all the associates, be it vendors, be it my, sales staff, processing staff, be it my, customer who probably, would be coming down to the city center for a job, so on and so forth. However, my area of operation is not Pune. My area of operation is Mahad or a Baramati. Okay, so Mahad and Baramati are the two centers from where I am operational, and these two centers are easily connected to Pune. So in that particular sense, it is not just, any haphazard way of opening up the center. This is a very planned way where we thought that, we will find for a micro market where a player like us would be firmly entrenched, get a foothold because of the demand that is emanating from that. And as it becomes urbanized over a period of time, and as we also become competitive over a period of time, we would be, offering the same services to the expanded set of customers, and then we would be subsumed under the urban agglomeration and continue to offer the services to the broader segment that comes under the urban area. So this has been the overall strategy, if I'm able to explain it to you.
Got it. Thank you for a detailed discussion because I think we have looked at, Aavas and other players who are in the similar market and similar product. They have done it a little differently, so it was critical to understand how you are planning to do it.
Sure.
Yeah. Sir, if you can just explain that you are planning some capital raise program for the next year and so what is the plan which you are foreseeing or which you wish to raise, because it is a capital-intensive business and a high growth would require capital to leverage. So what is your program on capital raise?
Yeah, so two things to it. If you see, Natesh has said that our ambit in terms of ability outreach. Hello, am I audible? Hello.
It just got disconnected for 30 seconds
Yeah.
or so.
So now is it clear?
Yeah.
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 So as I said that our leverage right now is at 1.2x. So there is a tremendous room, or in fact a good enough room for leverage for increasing our leverage. That is what we are trying to look for in the current financial year. However, as you rightly said that if you have an aspiration, let's say 3 to 5 years down the line, become a reasonably sized player in the market. Obviously, capital raise is something which you have to look forward to. So, on the capital raise plan, I would say that we have increased our authorized capital from 70 to 30 crores because, that is something which we envisage, subject to all necessary approvals. And again, capital is something which is a board approved exercise and there are certain other compliances that you need to follow. But that is something which would be there in our overall scheme of things. Beefing up the capital through incremental capital raise and then, leveraging the strengthened liability franchise going ahead. So obviously, just to answer your question, subject to necessary approvals, we are, we have put up all those things in place towards the growth capital as we scale up. But then again, capital raise is a, board approved exercise and we would have to follow other compliances as well for that.
Got it. So just a couple of last questions and then I will rest for the moment. Sir, one is that your incremental disbursement or incremental portfolio IRR as mentioned was 16%, whereas I think your portfolio IRR as at the start of the year was around 22-23%. So this is a huge in terms of customer profiling and the product profiling. So can you explain what has been the change and what is our strategy going forward?
Certainly. So, the IRR on the portfolio has been at around 20% plus. It has been basically, it ranges from 18 to 22 odd %. But however, as I said that, if you have to scale up and you have to scale up in a way and fashion that you ensure that the overall quality on the, portfolio also remains maintained, then obviously you need to kind of, come down in your interest. You have to rationalize, rather, I would say, in your interest rate offering that you would be giving to the customers. That's true that whatever offering that we make, the risk gets captured into the overall rate of interest that gets offered. But we would want to be in that particular sweet spot going ahead of, 12 to 13% where we would be kind of good enough to scale up. And that we envisage that going ahead, as the accruals happen on the borrowing side of it, as well as on the OPEX side of it, we would, look forward towards operating in that particular range. However, having said that, incremental disbursement that are being done in 15 to 16%, there has been no change in the focus in our target segment of customers or for that matter geography. It remains the same. It remains EWS LIG focused company. We would continue to offer long-term housing finance assistance to these first-time home buyers who want to own a house in a project probably that would be qualified under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, or would want to develop a low-cost housing units on its own land. That is something which we would be looking at, and our area of operation also would be into tier 2, tier 3, and the semi-urban towns, at least for the times to come. So that is what been remaining constant. Only obviously for the scaling up purpose and for ensuring that you have a better quality loan book, we are trying to rationalize our offering to the customer. Obviously, this gets captured, however, into the offering that we make. So that is what.
Yeah, fair enough. And your ticket size remains same, 11-12 lakhs?
My ticket size, sir, average ticket size is 11 to 12 lakhs during the year. Even in the last year, when we started disbursing under the new version, new avatar, obviously at that point of time also it was 11 to 12 lakhs. So it remains the same.
And so the house which you are financing would be around 20 lakhs around, 20 plus or what?
Yeah, so my average LTV currently is at around 55 to 60%. On the incremental disbursement. Yeah. So that is what it is right now.
So it's 20 to 25 lakhs.
Yeah, that's right. You got it.
And the borrower profile would be largely self-employed or salaried ones? How do you categorize that?
On my
broad idea, not.
I'll give an idea. On my overall book, the salaried self-employed split is around 15 to 20% for salaried, rather 15% salaried and 85% self-employed. On incremental loans, and now loan is showing those characteristics of incremental loan. On incremental loans, it is 40-60 now.
Okay, so self-employed is 60.
60, yeah.
Got it. So your focus has shifted from self-employed to salaried.
We want to diversify in our customer segment type as well, because just reliance on self-employed category would incur a lot of seasonality and lumpiness in the overall repayment. But would want to tell you that even the salaried are not salaried; they are quasi self-employed. They have other sources of income as well. But however, during the salaried part of it.
Yeah. He must be working for a shop and also delivering milk. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand that segment. Yeah. That I understand. So, sir, last thing I would like to broadly understand our offering vis-a-vis our larger peers, which are basically Aavas and Home First and all the names which you also know and I also know. So I will not want to name them. But is there any product differentiation or some strategy differentiation in terms of how we are building our business and how they have built their business, so that we can have an idea of the growth trajectory where we will be falling for next, let's say, 4-5 years at least?
So really nice question and appreciate that. So you see, we provide financial assistance to our target home buyers looking to purchase these low-cost units. And as I said, that operation is tier 2, tier 3 semi-urban areas, right? So these locations are obviously frequented by public sector banks, RRBs, co-ops, and the other, affordable housing finance HFCs that would be there in our segment. But one thing that you would appreciate, and you also would know, that the demand for housing in this segment is like 95% of the total housing shortage or the market opportunity, which I do not want to quantify because you would be knowing it, is emanating from this particular segment. So what we have seen, in fact, in my experience of around 15 years in this market, is that, there is an opportunity for a peaceful coexistence for everyone. Everyone can build up their own niche in this particular segment and ensure that the book is being built up. So when I think about differentiation, I do not think that, in terms of product differentiation, you can kind of provide. Obviously, during the walk the talk, you will obviously, handhold the customer and provide that necessary customization. But two things which I think, would set any particular HFC or rather Star Housing Finance apart is the fact that we do know that, or rather we are able to calculate what is the exact amount that is required for a particular person to be financed to. And the second is the amount has to be disbursed on time. So that's where the gross inefficiencies of other banks, other RRBs and co-ops come into the picture. That is, it's suboptimal to say the least. So that's where basically, HFCs like us and HFCs like probably others who have created niche in themselves come to the fore. So what we have done is that we have leveraged technology that would ensure that my tax from login to sanction, which was erstwhile, around 3 to 4 weeks maybe. Now it has come down to 3 days for a salary profile, provided all the documents are getting captured. And for a self-employed, it becomes 7 days. So what happens is that getting the right amount to this particular borrower and getting the right amount of this particular loan at the right time is basically what sets us apart. Obviously, the domain of the people who are there on ground, that is something which has ensured that, the loan book that we are creating at these locations remains impeccable. And that is evident in the, remarks that we had said to you. So these are the two differentiations which I think, would set us apart and help us to scale and gain a foothold in these geographies where other people also would be there.
Yes. I think I've got my answers. Thank you so much, and that's all the best for and growth trajectory which we can expect for next 4-5 years. If you can just
growth trajectory is something I would not want to give any forward-looking statement, but we are crossing one milestone after the other. I think in the times to come, the first step would be to become a systematically important HFC as classified by RBI, and then go on from there. So we do not want to chase on any milestone as such. We just want to ensure that whatever we do it well. and factor in all the disruptions that are going to happen or rather happening to ensure that the book is impeccable in terms of quality. And obviously the returns are good enough for the stakeholders in the long term.
So I was not actually asking for any numbers or quantification.
So first milestone, I'm sorry. So first milestone is the systematically important HFC. Something you would like.
Sir, one second. I just wanted to understand that it's a huge market, as you have already told, and there can be a coexistence of multiple players, and and we are very, very small. I think we are just, a drop in the ocean kind of. If the right analogy I have to use. So we are just a drop in the ocean. So now it is the aggression of the management or the nature of the management where whatever business they want to do, they can actually do. I mean, whatever growth management wants to do, they can do. So that was the whole point in asking the level of aggression which we are foreseeing, or that was the whole idea, sir. Nothing, no quantification or forward-looking statement. Yeah, sir.
Got your point. So I'll tell you, with the current network that we've established, so I have said that during the call also that, we are good enough for a 20-25 crores of monthly run rate with the current setup. Obviously, now with the capital, with an assumption that, capital is available on tap, the domain of the people on ground that is there, my in-house sales team, 75% of my incremental loans are now getting sourced in-house. My processors, my underwriters on ground, my underwriters in the central team have that impeccable experience out and out working only in these kind of customer segment. So with respect to scaling, obviously we are trying to gauge, trying to ensure that all those levers are intact. And that is why you see that we have, incurred expenses on the manpower. We have deployed the technology suite. We have also deployed, mobility application to ensure the scale up happens. So as rightly pointed out to you, the scope is infinite and the team is capable enough to do it, subject to, capital being available and all things being benign. So that is what I would like to say. Obviously, but first step is to become a systematically important HFC.
Got it. So you can choose the growth number which you want to do, I believe. So
yeah. So that is what I would like to say. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish.
A reminder to the participants: anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 at this time. The next question is from the line of Jay Mehta from KSA Shares and Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir. So my question would be on the technological front. Are we developing any omni channels where we planning to sell our product or cross-sell them to our customers, or because our demographic is usually in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, we are not developing it as of now yet?
You're talking about fintech kind of platform is what you're talking about?
Are we using, for loan processing, are we using ML or any type of technological products?
So Jay, I'll just give you what it was. The company basically was working in a very, very discrete kind of a technology environment where basically the loan management system at that point of time, if I tell about, if I have to take you back before October 2019, it was more or less an advanced version of an Excel. It was that kind of a legacy system. So what we have done, step one is that, we have ensured that, it gets migrated into a core LMS where the entire end-to-end operation along with the overall accounting part of it gets taken care of by this particular, package. And we also ensured, as I just said before also, that, if you have to reach out to the nooks and corners of these geographies, you have to ensure that, you are well equipped technologically. So that's where we deployed the mobility application where the login to sanction will happen through this particular technology. So the intent over here was to ensure that we actually take the branch to that particular borrower. My sourcing staff basically is able to capture all the income KYC and related information of the borrower through this application. My underwriter should be able to assess or rather pinpoint the residence verification, employment verification, so on and so forth for this particular borrower. That's what this particular system does. So that is where we are at this point of time. We are right now ensuring that end-to-end processing of the loan application, which is the bulk of it that has happened right now. Since October 2019, 100% loans are now right now getting processed through the digital mobility application, the core element. Going ahead, we do feel that whatever technology would be, it is important to get a touch and feel of the customer by actually personally visiting his or her premises, because this segment is such that unless and until you know the customer or you see the customer, you won't be able to appraise the credit worthiness of this segment. So just to answer to your question, we are taking step by step. I don't know how it would pan out over a period of time where we would be able to incorporate the AI and the MLs of the technologies into this particular segment. However, the focus right now has to ensure that end-to-end processing happens to technology. All the attributes related to the borrower, his lifestyle, his habits, all get encapsulated into the mobility application and flows into the core element, which helps us to take a better credit decision and ensure that whenever there is a red signal, that gets communicated across the rank and file. So that is where we are at this point of time.
So average loan processing time would be how many days?
So as I told you that my optimal loan processing time for a salaried customer is around 3 days, 3 to 5 days max to max if he's into the farther reaches of the geographies of operation, provided all the documents are completed. And for a self-employed it will be around 7 to 10 days.
7 to 10. Okay. Sir, and GNPA and NNPA for FY21?
The GNPA as of 31st March 2021 is 3.07%. And NNPA is 2.62%.
2.62. Okay. And so can you just tell me the NIM margins now and going forward, and how the the second wave of COVID has affected, and are there any customer touch points that or the employees are going door to door, or is it everything clocked in and back office work? So how's the market doing?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, COVID pandemic is something which, entire financial services space has observed a disruption, and we are also no different from it. So first thing what we did in the month of March when the lockdown was announced, we decided that we will ensure that first of all the business activity has to come on to, which is the incremental disbursement. I hope I'm trying to make you understand what I'm trying to say over here. So the incremental disbursements at that point of time were halted. All our focus, got concentrated onto the customer and ensuring that, we understand how the customer has been affected, and we maintain close connect with that particular customer. So what happened at that point of time is that our staff, as I told you now, across the locations position, knows in and out of these 1100 plus loan accounts. And the ones who have been responsible for processing these loans also are associated with us. So that gives us a great comfort. The incremental loans as a part of version 2.0, entire, customer base, we in and out we know, along with the ones who have been there in the legacy part of it as well. So what we did is that we initiated the walk the talk program with our customers, understood the impact that they had on their life cycle, and we continued educating them. I think education and awareness is the important aspect for this particular segment where we are operating. And then we offered moratorium to 320 loan accounts, as I said it before, also when RBI came up with the moratorium guideline. Now, collection efficiency, would want to say, which Ashish he has said, that it was around 30% in April 20. Which then got increased to 75%. I'm talking about the monthly collection efficiency.
Okay.
To 75% by July 20, and at the end of the quarter, it was around 90% plus. So we already had to believe that while this segment would be the first to get affected, but these are first-time home buyers. These guys would be the first one to get regularized as well. So this got validated that even if they were the first to get hit by disruption, the same segment would be the first to become regular. So that's what actually, our monthly collection chart also showed. Then we started the disbursement from the month of July onwards, and in a calibrated manner. So what we did is that we revisited our pending disbursement, we revisited our pending sanction, we scrutinized the logins once again, we revisited our policy and guidelines for processing, we revised our negative list of customers and geographies. We kept a close tab on the developments in the districts and the locations where we were operational. And any particular alert was communicated to the head office to ensure that, we are in touch, and accordingly the strategy gets formulated.
Okay.
Then last what we did is that under the guidance of the board also, we decided to be conservative in our provisioning policy. The accounts that got hit by pandemic and got seasoned and other factors also were taken into consideration. We ensured that, we write those off to, and at the same time have the focus on getting those accounts collected or have some kind of resolution in place. The same goes for the second wave as well, Jay. So in the second wave, we have maintained a similar kind of an approach. We have reached out to the customer.
Few of the regional players are focusing on having a field staff to understand the pulse of the market, especially in tier 3 and tier 4 cities. So I'm just asking, how is the Star Housing placed in that segment, which is critical?
Exactly. So the walk the talk, as I said, with the customer is through our on-field staff itself. So all our
staff do we have on field, like the business correspondents in this field?
Out of my staff of 75 plus people, more than 30 would be my correspondents in terms of the ones who basically have touch base with the customer at the time of sourcing the file. And if you take into account the processes as well, it would go well beyond 50-55 people.
Okay, sir.
So out of 75, as I said, that around 80% would be the on-ground stuff, and that is how the close connect we have maintained. And I could say to you how we have performed during the pandemic and the current pandemic. Also, we have we see the similar kind of approach in terms of customer behavior. We do feel that if everything ends well and things get normalized, we should be good to go ahead in terms of an incremental disbursement from July onwards. But again, let's see. It all depends on the guidelines and other things.
Right. So then how many staff do you plan to add on to this, so that assuming that per employee that the loan disbursement is increasing?
So, Jay, whenever I open a new location, I ensure that it gets manned by a unit head, by an operation staff, by a credit staff, and the team of 4 to 6, in-house sales team. So if I am opening, let's say, a new branch, you will see the staff count getting increased by 8 to 10 people at any point of time.
Right. Okay. Right. So, and NIM margins, if you can just provide me with for FY21.
So the NIM margin that we currently right now are having at this point of time, the incremental loans, as I said, is at around 16%. The cost of borrowing is at around 9.1, 9.2%. Considering NHB, if I remove NHB, it would be around 10.75 to 11%. So my NIM, I'm talking about the spread, because right now it would not be comparable to give you the NIM numbers. So my spread would be around 5 to 6%.
Spread would be 5 to 6%.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So that would be all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Mangesh Kulkarni from Almondz Global Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to know your 16% of your loan book is wholesale. So what is the average size of these loans? What maximum and lower side?
The average ticket size is 1 CR. We have 15 loan accounts.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And in terms of our this latest collection efficiency in the second wave, in the first 2 months, what are the numbers? Like you said, that collection efficiency was around 90% by the end of March. So what is the status currently in the first 2 months of the FY22?
So in April, the collection efficiency has been at around 45%. And in the current month, we anticipate it to increase it up to 65%. But again, 7 days are left. So, that's how we are seeing. So it is a bit, improved in terms of the customer behavior vis-a-vis, COVID one pandemic. But again, it's too early to say. We would want to go through one particular quarter to analyze as to whether, there is a marginal improvement or not. But all I would say is that, May has been better as compared to April. And I really hope that, June should be much better than May. And by July, I think that things should get normalized.
Yeah. And one thing I just wanted to know,
Are we thinking of any co-lending tie-ups with the banks and financial institutions?
Yeah. So that is something, which we as a company would be open to in terms of exploring the co-lending or, other kind of a tie-up. But that again depends on the partner that would be having with. So that particular partner has to be similar kind of a DNA, same kind of customer segment being addressed to, similar geography of operation, so on and so forth. So if that happens, I think would be good enough to look at any proposal that come our way, and we also would be reaching out to such kind of players who would be active in the market.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sunil Mehta, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yes. I just wanted to know, do you have any plans to open branches in Ahmedabad and other cities of Gujarat?
Yeah. So Sunilji, we already are right now having a presence in Surat. And through Surat, we are attending to locations like Navsari, Valsad, Keem, Kosamba, so on and so forth. Obviously, the first step would be to ensure that the southern part of Gujarat gets well populated, and then obviously, depending on the attractiveness of the location, the North Gujarat and the Saurashtra part of it would get populated going ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. Reminder to the participants, to ask question, you may press star and 1. As there are no further questions, I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Kalpesh Dave for closing comments.
Thank you so much, operator. So on behalf of Star Housing Finance Limited, I thank everybody for attending the earnings call. In case of any further queries, please do get in touch with our investor relations desk. Thank you and take care. Bye. Operator, we can close the call.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Star Housing Finance Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.